Shadow Lord Chancellor Robert.
Mr. Speaker, today is about one question. Should violent and prolific criminals be on the streets or behind bars? I think they should be behind bars. For all the Justice Secretary's rhetoric, the substance of her statement could not be clearer. She's okay. Her party is okay with criminals terrorising our streets and tormenting our country. The truth is this. Any government...
Order. I thought people had come to listen to the statement, and I expect them to listen. I expected this front bench to be quiet. I certainly expect better from this front bench.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is this. Any government serious about keeping violent criminals behind bars, any government willing to do whatever it took, could obviously find and build prison cells required to negate the need for these disastrous changes. What do the changes amount to?
Mr. Swallow, you're getting very excited. You're telling me how good of a school teacher you are. This is a very bad example of it. Lord General.
What do these changes amount to? A get-out-of-jail-free card for dangerous criminals. Has the Justice Secretary even gone through a court listing recently? Pick one, anywhere in our country. Those currently going to jail for 12 months or less are not angels. They're Adam Gregory in Caen, who got 12 months for sexually assaulting his partner. Vinnie Nolan, who got 12 months for breaking someone's jaw. Sean Lardley, 10 months for beating his partner. Or Paul Morris, who got 6.5 months for shoplifting 36 times. Her plan is to let precisely these criminals loose. It's a recipe for a crime wave. And what about the Justice Secretary's plan for most criminals going to jail to serve just 1/3 of their prison sentence there? For her slashing of sentences across the board, discounts so big they'd make Aldi and Lidl blush. I'd call it a joke, Mr. Speaker, if the consequences for the public weren't so terrifying. In fact, it gets worse, because criminals who plead guilty, and most do, already get a third cut in their sentence. So under her scheme, a burglar who pleads guilty to an 18-month headline term would spend just 1/5 of that term in jail. Barely 11 weeks. 11 weeks for smashing through a family's door, storming through a child's bedroom looking for valuables, leaving them traumatised for life. Is this the Justice Secretary's idea of justice for victims? The least she could do is here and now guarantee that violent criminals, domestic abusers, stalkers, sexual assaulters won't be eligible for any discount in their sentence. Will she commit to that? And Mr. Speaker, if not prison, what's the plan to punish these criminals and to keep the public safe? Well, the Justice Secretary says it's digital prisons. As she puts it, prison outside of prison. Words that lead most people in this country to conclude the Justice Secretary is out of her mind. I'm all for technology, but tags are not iron bars. They can't stop your child being stabbed on their walk home from school, or a shop being ransacked time and time again, or a domestic abuser returning to their victim's front door.
Can I just say, out from my, I don't think it's the language we should be using. I'm sure the Secretary would like to reflect on that.
Of course, Mr. Speaker. The Ministry of Justice's own pilot scheme found 71% of tagged offenders breached their curfew. When it comes to stopping reoffending, tags are about as useful as smoke alarms are at putting out bonfires. What is the Justice Secretary going to say when she meets the victims of offenders that she let off? How is she going to look them in the eye and say with a straight face, "I'm sorry"? We're looking into how this criminal escaped from their digital prison cell. Mr. Speaker, her reforms are a recipe for carnage. I urge the Justice Secretary to change course, to make different choices. Yes, choices. Choices we knew they would make from the day the Prime Minister handpicked Lord Timpson as Prisons Minister, a man who's on the record saying a lot of people in prison shouldn't be there. 2/3 of them, in fact, he said, that they'd been there for far too long. The Labour Party are clearly ideologically opposed to prison, which is why they're letting criminals off with a get-out-of-jail-free card, rather than deporting the 10,800 foreign national offenders in our prisons. 1 in every 8 cells, and it's rising under her watch. If she's actually serious about keeping violent criminals off our streets and finding the cells that are needed, will she bring forward legislation tomorrow, disapply the Human Rights Act that is stopping us from swiftly deporting foreign national offenders? Mr. Speaker, there are 17,800 prisoners on remand, awaiting trial. Again, that figure has risen under the Justice Secretary. In fact, her own department's figures forecast that it could rise to as many as 23,600. Is she serious? Will she commit to taking up the Lady Chief Justice's request for extra court sitting days to hear those cases and free prison spaces? Mr. Speaker, if she's serious, will she commit, here and now, to building more than the meagre 250 rapid deployment cells her prison capacity strategy says she's planning to build this year? They have been built in 7 months before, and they can be built even faster. If she was serious, she would commit to striking deals with the 14 European countries who have spare prison capacity, renting their cells from them at an affordable price, as Denmark is doing with Kosovo. Mr. Speaker, between 1993 and 1996, her beloved Texas, the state she modelled these reforms on, a state that, by the way, has an incarceration rate 5 times higher than that of the United Kingdom, built 75,000 extra cells. If the government was serious, why can't they build 10,000 in a similar time period? Mr. Speaker, Labour aren't serious about keeping hyper-prolific offenders behind bars. In fact, there's nothing in the Justice Secretary's statement on locking them up or cutting crime, because their party doesn't believe in punishing criminals, and it doesn't really believe in prison. The radical, terrible changes made today, cloaked in necessity, but the root of them is their ideology, and it's the public who are going to be paying the price for her weakness.
Lord Chancellor.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Minister opposite talked about serious government. If his government that he was a part of had ever been serious, they would have built more than 500 prison places in 14 years in office. He is a new convert to the prison building cause. He and his party have never stood up in this chamber and apologised for only adding 500 places in 14 years.
I want the same respect from this side as well.
If I was waiting for...
We understand each other.
Speaker, if I was waiting for respect from the members opposite, I'd be waiting a long time. It's a good job I don't need it. Mr. Speaker, he talked about iron bars, but he was part of a government that did not build the prison places that this country needs. Unlike him, I take responsibility, and it has fallen to me to clean up the mess he and his party left behind. Let me spell out for him, Mr. Speaker, in case there is any confusion of what happens when he and his party leave our prison system on the brink of collapse, which is exactly what they did, and the prospect that faced me on day one when I walked in to the Justice Department. When prisons are on the verge of collapse, Mr. Speaker, you basically only really have 2 choices left at your disposal. You either shut the front door in or you have to open the back door out. His party knew that that is the situation that they were confronted with, but did they make any decisions? No, they just decided to call an election instead. They did a runner, and the public put them in their current position. And if they ever want to get out of that position, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest they start by reckoning with the reality of their own track record in office. It should, in any other reality, have started already with an apology. Many times the members opposite have had a chance to apologise to the country for leaving our prisons on the point of absolute collapse, and they have never taken it. And, Mr. Speaker, frankly, that tells you everything anyone needs to know about the modern Conservative Party.